Hope you can hear me over the wind out here. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a long time. It's long overdue, and welcome to my really messy garage. But this is my 62 Cadillac. I bought this thing in 1998 as a parts car. It was just a rusted out wreck. It was really bad. But it had a fresh motor in it, and I wanted the motor for a 61 convertible I had. And I was going to put that engine from this car in the convertible and just have a nice old restored car. I'd drive around, and anyway, I bought it in Manitoba and drove it here to Alberta. Jesus, I don't know, 1,100 kilometers. And I kind of bonded with the car when I got back here, and it was, I think, May of 1998. Kind of decided, well, maybe I'll just putz around with this thing and fix it up a bit, and one thing led to another. And that's a long story. And what I'd like to do is maybe a series of videos on this thing and show you what I've done to it over the years. And everything on this car I did right here in this garage, with the exception of the original build of the intake manifold. This is version 3. And the original I built at my brother's shop in Manitoba. And the cylinder heads a friend did for me. And I did all the body work, rust repair, primer, up to ready for paint. A buddy painted it in his garage. So everything else, doing the Ford 9-inch, the whole 9 yards, engine rebuild, swapped it to a 5-speed standard, 4-wheel disc brakes, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, reason we're out here today is it's nice out. It's 12 degrees Celsius, and it hasn't been for a while. It's the middle of winter, and I got spring fever, and I'm going to start this sucker up. So quickly before I do, I'll show you some of the things under here. I've got, we'll go over here first. I'm running the fuel system and ignition on a Mega Squirt controller. Right there, and that's the fuse box for all the sensors and whatnot it takes to run the fuel injection. And once again, I built that intake. I also built the headers. I drew all this up on CAD on a computer and then built it from plans I made. I'll start back here at the front. Got a vintage air system on it. This cooler right here is power steering and hydro boost. As I run hydro boost, I have a pretty crazy cam in it, and doesn't make enough vacuum for power brakes, which I found out by trying to drive it with that cam in the original booster. Here's an engine oil cooler. So I made an adapter on my lathe over here to put a B&M Chevy oil cooler adapter plate onto the Cadillac, and the upside of that as well, I got an engine oil cooler, and I also use Chevy filters now, which are really easy to find. What else in here? I built that Serpentine belt conversion there, you see that plate. Once again, I drew it up in CAD, and then I had a water jetted out for me, and I've got individual ignition coils there. I got 4 over there, 4 over there, crank triggered ignition. Another thing I drew up, I don't know if you'll be able to see it down there, you can't really. The bottom pulley is from a 3.8 liter turbo Buick. And then I drew up a 36 tooth wheel for the ignition impulse to be picked up from. And I had that water jetted out. Then I heat shrunk it onto the Buick pulley. And that gives me my my pickup for the computer. The distributor back there, you can see that blue thing way in the back, no leads into it, of course, but it is the cam timing sensor. So we get my cam timing from there for the computer. I made the adapter bits inside of that too. And the heads are pretty gnarly. A friend who builds race engines did those heads for me. And the original Cadillac has pretty small valves. And he couldn't go very big with them. We could go from 187, 150s up to 194, 160s, which was a Chevy size. But the valve stems are different, so I had Manley valves make up the valves for me. And we spec'd it out, my buddy and I kind of designed the valve train around what we could get. We could, off the shelf beehive springs from Comp Cams, their retainers. And we had the machine shop machine the head to the right perch depth for the springs, and the machine shop hogged out the with the valve pockets and everything. And then Jim did the porting job, which is a really nice job. He did a beautiful job of porting and relieving the valve, unshrouding the valves. And they flow really good. And the valves are Manley stem undercut race flows, so they flow pretty good. And then Howard's made the cam, so I used DynoSim software, and I spec'd the cam myself based on the fuel system, the length of the exhaust, compression ratio. And I put together a cam profile, sent it to them, and they said, yeah, this will work, we can do it. And so I got a pretty magic cam in there, one off for this car only. Yeah, so Hydro Boost brakes. So over here, it's got a Hydro Boost unit there. You can kind of see it in there, but underneath the ignition, I can't really. Got a brake proportioning valve there for it, for the four-wheel Willwood disc brakes. And that worked really good. That's from a, I think an 80s or 90s Sierra heavy-duty pickup truck. And works great. And of course the power steering pump, the hydraulic fluid goes to the brake first, and then down to the power steering box. And from the power steering box, there's a return, as well as a return here. You can see they tee together right down here. One line's coming up from the bottom, that's from the power steering. This one's from the brake. They tee in and they go up through the cooler here, and from the cooler into the bottom of the reservoir. And that works good. Appendages on them. They're really, did I do something with I might have stopped recording there for a minute. Hopefully that didn't ruin it. So anyway, the throttle bodies are Ford 4.6 liter, and they work really well. The other thing I'll show you over here is you can kind of see, I'll come back around the car, my crazy throttle linkage I built. So when you step on the pedal down there, it kicks that bell crank forward, pushes this one, pushes that one. So works really good. And I have a high idle solenoid down in there someplace. It's kind of buried in there. Anyway, it'll hold it on high idle till it warms up and reaches a specific temperature, and the computer kicks it off. So for those throttle bodies to get air to them, I'm using Pontiac Sunbird air cleaner thingies up here, and the snorkel's right down there. There's one there, comes through, so it's like ram air. One there. And you notice I cut one of them off, flipped it around so there'd be a left and a right. And gives me nice ram air, cool air. Got a boatload of solenoids controlling various things in here, fan, air conditioning, headlights. And the headlights have their own relays, and they come through these fuses, so each headlight circuit has its own fuse up here, just in case the front end gets crunched. It'll blow a fuse and it won't get an electrical fire. Got a lot going on here with this thing. Anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to start this sucker up, because like I say, I got spring fever real bad, and it's time. So it's pretty raucous. It's got Dynaflow 50s, and what do we got at the back? Magnaflow glass packs for resonators, 2.5 inch. Of course, I built the exhaust myself. I just bought a bunch of elbows, mandrel bent elbows, and then I had them, I welded them all up into a nice exhaust system. Go inside here. These are Corvair bucket seats that I got, reupholstered with legendary interiors stuff. I had the door panels redone in Oregon. I sent them away. And can't get a steering wheel adapter for these things, so I made my own. So to put a Grant wheel on there, and it's really nice. I bought this car from my friend Hank, who had since passed away, so I drive with Hank every day. I'm in this car. Hank's with me, man. He's a good dude. Was a really good man. Anyway, I'm a 56, so I got 56 Buick headliner in it. And in place of the clock here, I've got that's my AFR gauge connected to the computer and gets readings from it and gives me my air fuel ratio. I grafted these gauges in a glove box lid. It's an aluminum lid. So what I did is I used JB Weld, and on the outside here I used body filler to finish it off. The two small ones, oil and water temperature, those tubes or whatever, I machined those on my lathe out of aluminum. And the bigger one's just a piece of exhaust tubing for the tack. And if you wonder why the tack's at that funny angle, it's because where I'm sitting up here, the top of it gets a little bit shrouded, so when it comes down into, above 2,000 RPM, I can start to see it in better detail. And I used to have indicator lights in here. That was for my original fuel injection computer, which I used to have in the glove box, which I moved out. I got a bunch of wiring in here, fuses and a bus there to just distribute things around the car. And I have essentially two different electrical systems. I got one, it's clean power from the battery, and then another system that's dirty power from the alternator. And the point is to isolate the computer from any weird impulses the car could put out. And of course, I got I put a 5-speed Tremec in it, and this is a real 8-ball. I bought it one at a billiard supply place. I drilled and tapped it out to fit the shifter. And the shifter, it's an old Hurst one I had kicking around forever from when I used to have Muncie's. And they have a leg. The Muncie's had a kick in them to bring the shifter one direction. I can't remember which way it went. Maybe it was left, I forget. No, it was right. To take them off the side shifter was mounted on the side of the transmission and kick it over. And this being a pretty wide car, and the original, this shifter, the Tremec, the shifter post comes out right in the middle. And so to move it over, I cut the bottom off the shifter and flipped it around. So now the dog leg goes over that way, moves the shifter a little closer. I got Chevelle Pedals in here, and I, of course, once again, I had to build all this stuff up under the dash to mount them, and extend them down, and they were pretty short as Chevelle pedals. They were way up. I think I had to bring them down 2.5 inches. But yeah, that's about the name of the thing in here. I put vintage air in, like I say, so I made this little aluminum plate here, and I put it in here, and then I put the vintage air controls on there. A little modified Cadillac pin from one of the group I was a member of. And I got the dash vents from an air-conditioned Cadillac, and then just painted them up and put them in here because my car originally didn't have air. This car is a plain Jane. It's just like a biscuit. It was no power windows, no power seats. The only option it had was tinted windows and a radio. So it's not like I've desecrated a show winning or potential high value car. This car was, fully restored would be worth maybe $12,000. Appraised right now, it's appraised at I think $39,000. And anyway, so without further ado, I'm gonna just kill this recording. I'm gonna jump out, set up the camera. We're gonna give this sucker a cold start, poor old thing, but it needs to run for a bit. Now it's got quite a bark, so watch your ears. And it takes it's got to run for a few minutes before it's happy to idle on its own. And that's still settings I'm messing with in the fuel injection, but it breathes a lot, and it's funny, like it really wants a lot of fuel at certain parts of the lower RPM range, and others it doesn't. And it doesn't really run good till it gets over 2,000 RPM. So that's kind of the nature of the cam. So let's just get on with it. And I'll stop this, reset the camera, and we'll try again. see the AFR gauge where the clock used to be. oil pressure. Of course, I modified the oil pump too. I put a big block Chevy aftermarket high performance spring in it, and I shimmed it to the length of the original Cadillac spring, which was longer, but gives nice oil pressure. It runs steady on the highway, hot at 50, which is good. And but it's a little high right now. It's cold out, and it's, you know, the temperature gauge hasn't started to move yet. It's like I say, 12 degrees, but yeah. Anyway, that's it. I'll stop recording now. I gotta let this thing warm up because I don't want to shut it off for the cold exhaust system, because it'll just be all wet inside and rust out. So I'll carry on, let the car warm up fully, and yeah. Anyway, maybe you can. I'll do something about making more of these videos, but, you know, showing photographs of over the years, the changes and all the modifications I made to it and how I did them, because I took tons of photos. The whole thing's documented. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.